Welcome. Can you hear me? We need more chairs. Okay, we'll get a few more chairs for the back. Again, welcome and thank you for coming tonight. And welcome to the folks on Zoom that are watching at home. We're here with one item on our agenda tonight, and that's to talk about a needed dues increase above the authority granted to the board. Our bylaws require that any dues increase, operational dues increase above 5% requires a majority vote of the Gulf members. That's you. And we're here tonight to ask you for that support. We want you to support that dues increase. We'll tell you why. We're here to take any and all questions that you might have, and we'll stay until those questions are satisfactorily answered. However, I will tell you that the food starts at 7 o'clock. And the bar. So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm David Barclay. I'm president of the board. And the other board members are here tonight sitting front 2 rows. I also want you to understand that the board does not run the club. I'll say that again. The board does not run the club. Greg and his management team run the club. The board governs the club. And in that governance, every year, we appoint committee members that are chaired by one of the board members, and they provide input, recommendations, and guidance to the board. The board also has oversight of the board. And within that oversight authority, we make sure that the governing policies are consistent with the rules and regulations and the bylaws. And as the club evolves over time and our membership evolves over time, we make sure those rules and regulations are amended to be consistent with the needs of our membership. Within that oversight duty, we also have approval rights on the annual budget. The board also sets annual strategic short-term and long-term goals. Our first goal this year, number one priority, is your experience, your member experience. People join Round Hill for the aquatics experience, the tennis experience, the golf experience, the dining experience. And for those of you in my generation, if you remember in the 1980s, there was a sitcom called Cheers. And there was a frequent patron of Cheers named Norm. And every time Norm entered Cheers, everybody yelled out, Norm! Well, that Round Hill is our Cheers. That's why member experience is important. Another goal is making sure we have a balanced operating budget. It's imperative for the long-term financial health of Round Hill that we have a balanced operating budget. And that's what these dues accomplish. We also need to ensure that we invest capital dollars into Round Hill every year. We know these are the right goals. We know this because we benchmark ourselves against all the top tier clubs in the country. And all these clubs have the same goals. Member experience, balanced operating budget, reinvestment into the club. Several months ago, the board, through the finance committee, asked Greg to prepare a fiscal year 24 operating budget that will provide the member experience that you all expect and that you deserve. Now, Kathleen Dunlap, who's our treasurer and vice president and chair of the finance committee, is going to walk you through that budgetary process. Kathleen?
You want to do any housekeeping items?
What? Like turn off your cell phones. Oh, one other thing. Like I said, all questions are welcome, but we're all members of Round Hill, and I would request that we all are respectful and courteous of each other throughout the evening.
Okay, great. Thanks, David. I need a microphone now, even though I'm really loud. That work? Okay, great. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for being here tonight. As David said, I'm Kathleen Dunlap, and I'm going to start tonight with just two comments that are a glaring glimpse of the obvious. Number one is inflation is at a 40-year high, and number two, U.S. wages have increased more recently than they have in decades. Those are two big issues, and we're going to talk a lot about that tonight. And sadly, Round Hill is not immune to these big macro inflation or macroeconomic factors. So Greg is going to talk with you about how these economic factors and other factors are impacting the Round Hill budget. And he's going to go into that in great detail. But what I've been asked to do by David is to talk to you about our process. Because we really do have a very good, robust process here. We've got strong committees. And the processes that we use hopefully will give you confidence that the numbers we're presenting and the goals, the initiatives we're setting forth are grounded and real, and that you can have faith in them. I'm also going to try to be as succinct as possible. So first of all, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Finance Committee. I know I saw Carol, but I don't know who else is here. But if you're from the Finance Committee, perhaps you could stand up, please. Oh, there we go. Okay, great. So Finance Committee, thank you. Great. Finance Committee is consisted of 8 members, and these people are all super smart professionals that really volunteer their time and their expertise to make sure we get this stuff right. The members are Dale Haycock, Paul Lockey, Mike Bradford, Art Bruno, Alan Mendel, Carol Carluccio, and Mark Naveau, and me. 5 members of this group have been on the Finance Committee for more than 6 years. So therefore, these people have a really excellent and solid understanding of the nuances of Round Hill's finances. And it is tricky, I must tell you. Every single month, the committee is sent via email our monthly financials of our full operating and capital spending for that month period. Every month, the committee meets and goes over those financials, sometimes by a line-by-line basis. And we investigate together with management any meaningful variances, both positive and negative. Each month, in addition to the Finance Committee, the Board of Directors and the Audit Committee also receives monthly financials. The chair of the Finance Committee, that's me this year with Bruce last year, reports any findings, observations, concerns, and good news to the board every single month. So every month we're on top of every penny that's going in and out of this place. In addition to the monthly financials, the committee also oversees management's proposed annual budget and capital budget and some other things as well. But it's important to note that neither, as David said, that neither the board nor the Finance Committee sets these budgets. Management creates the budgets. The Finance Committee vets the budget, and when satisfied, we present the budget to the board for approval. And it's not unusual for the board to kick it back to us to do more work and bring it back again. And that's happened. I know when I worked on the committee under Carol, that happened several times. So as David pointed out, generally the operating budget begins in the spring because we're on a June fiscal year. However, as David mentioned, this year we accelerated the process because we were concerned about the impact of inflation and rising labor costs on our budget. Also, that combined with the fact that this is going to be the first year since COVID that the club is open, fully open and fully staffed. So we really needed to be prepared for that, and we really needed to see the map. So as David mentioned, we tasked Greg with going out and creating the operating budget. Did we miss a slide there? So the way the budget was created is, again, this is repetitive to David, but Greg did a bottom-up process going unit by unit of the business units of Round Hill. One of the goals that we had was to make sure that we had a balanced budget this year. Last year, as you know, we had a loss of $460 million in the year, and this year, I mean, sorry, that was there. 460,000. I'm used to working with big numbers. And 460, 760 is the targeted deficit for this year. We have never run a deficit at Round Hill until the past recent years. The good news about that deficit is that we do have government subsidies that are covering those. But as you can imagine, it's not a sustainable method, and that we really do need to return to our prior ways of creating a balanced budget. Let's see. The Finance Committee reviewed Greg's budget. We reviewed the budget assumptions on inflation. We viewed the assumptions on continued pay group, attrition of membership, and more. We also reviewed all the cost saving assumptions and additional revenue sources that were included in the budget. So at the end of the day, and in addition to that, the committee also discussed various dues increase strategies, and we reviewed the dues of nearby clubs. So at the end of the day, the Finance Committee voted unanimously to approve the budget, and we unanimously approved a dues increase strategy, both of which were presented to the Board of Directors and ultimately, took a couple days, was approved by the board. So in closing, I just want to say that I speak for the board and the Finance Committee in saying that we firmly believe that this is a good, sound budget, and we have confidence in management's ability to execute. And we are humbly asking you to support us and vote yes on the dues increase vote. Next, I think there's some next steps. The Finance Committee is meeting next Tuesday, and we will be working on the capital budget and reviewing that. So by the end of the fiscal year, we will have both a vetted and approved annual budget and an annual capital budget. And I think that's pretty much all you asked me to talk about. So with that, I'll turn it over to Greg to go into the details.
Y'all hear me? Good evening, everybody. Good evening. That is all. So again, David and Kathleen, thank you very much for teeing this up for me. However, I'm not going to go into detail, as Kathleen said, so she may have been mistaken. I don't want to bore you with Greg's slide things of the past. So I'm going to just cut to the chase. And you know, everything that David said, everything that Kathleen has said is basically because of the past 3 years. And I'll back up a little. It's, you know, pre-COVID, you know, we had a fully 7-day operation, 6-day operation, fully functioning food. And now we're at 5 days functioning. And we're still open 7 days, but we're not fully operational. So these are all the things that we took into consideration when we put together this 2024 budget. The other reason we put together this budget early was because we were running this deficit. So we wanted to get ahead of this because we knew this was going to be a process. We knew that anything over a 5% increase for the golf members required a vote. So that's why we're here today in terms of the timing of this, as we know it's going to take time to get the vote out, for which we hope you will support, and that you understand the reason why we need it. So let me back up over 1920 budget, we did not have a dues increase. 2021, we had a dues increase. 2022, we had our regular dues increase. So we skipped a year. That was you know, in hindsight, I'm not sure, but because of the subsidies, we were able to carry ourselves through that $460,000 loss. And now we budgeted this year an approved budget of roughly, again, a $460,000 loss, but it's going to be greater than that just because of the inflationary factors that we continue to have the headwinds with. So our ask, again, to make clear to everybody, is current monthly dues for you golf members are $11.77. If we just input the standard 5% increase, that would be a $57 a month dues increase. That the board can do on its own. In fact, it can actually go up to what the current San Francisco Bay Area CPI is, and it's hovering a little around 6%. So that number might increase by a few dollars here or there. The ask is for an additional $61 a month on top of that $57. So that's what the vote's going to be about. It's going to be about the $61. It's not about 118, 110, or any other number. It's about the $61 that we need additionally to close the gap on our operational budget. So total dues would be $12.95. So how do these things impact Roundhill? Again, we talked about these things here: exceptional experience, better member access to the club, open fully on Tuesdays. We have created a model that we've been operating with now for a few years of only 12 outside golf tournaments and only 24 sellouts at the club on Saturdays. So that's in this budget as well. We have generated roughly $500,000 of additional food and beverage revenue in this 2024 budget. And we've actually managed to balance the food and beverage aspect of the 2024 budget. So that's a positive sign. And then we've also sought out operating efficiencies, as Kathleen has said. So, you know, we run this business like it's my money. It's like we want to make sure we're not spending frivolously. We are looking for every way to be efficient at this club. And those that are on the finance committee that serve on other committees, I think, understand that and know that. The biggest impacts for us are labor. As you know, labor trends up. Workers' comp goes with labor. Two huge numbers, as Kathleen said, 40-year inflationary high at 7%. Labor, food, energy are the three drivers in this budget, is why we need the additional $61 a month. Labor costs are 70%, approximately 70% of our operating budget. Payroll has gone up 31% since 2019. It's a little over $3 million. Food costs have gone up 9.5%. Roughly 36% of our budget. Our food costs used to be 32%, we're now at 42%. Energy costs, solar has helped us tremendously, but we're still seeing increases in natural gas prices. We've renegotiated our natural gas price with third-party vendors outside of PG&E. So we continue to look for ways to not necessarily work with PG&E, but have to work through PG&E. But we've been able to keep those gas prices down than what the market is doing. So those are the three areas that impact us the most. Again, as I said, just the last couple of years, 11.7 and 22, 15% and 21, the 31%, again, it's just what I just stated. Food costs, I think you all see it. Eggs have increased by 59%, almost 60%. We're paying $1 an egg right now. So it's outrageous. You know, we're paying similar to what everybody else sees in the market, ours is a wholesale price. Energy costs 7.1%. You know, this is a national gas price. God, I wish our gas prices were here, but you know, 46% gasoline. Overall increase 9.1%. Things we've done to reduce our costs. Electronic reporter, roughly $100,000. Renegotiated our natural gas. I just said that. Two S's like that. $50,000. Renegotiated our linen and uniform agreement. These are big contracts that we have. Saved $25,000. Consolidated or reduced positions, $200,000. Reduce bonuses, $50,000. Reduce continuing education, $25,000. So again, it's not that we're trying to drive prices up for the membership. We're trying to do everything we can to keep prices at a reasonable rate. Trim savings. These numbers have changed since the magazine article last month in the Reporter. These are because purchases have occurred, more savings have occurred. Agronomic golf course equipment products, $175,000. Food and beverage equipment product, $90,000. Merchandise discounts continue at roughly $2,000 a month. That's another $25,000. And administrative and other around $60,000. So our contract with Troon is $250,000 a year. We're almost up to a year. It'll be a year, call it April 1. So we're 10 months through. We've saved roughly $100,000 through the Troon contract to date. So again, I see that contract and that relationship with Troon continuing to improve. We're continuing to find ways to save money, to use their resources to help our team do a better job, to provide a better experience for the membership. So I believe that the Troon experience for me, in terms of the relationship that we've had and what it's bringing to the club, has been a benefit, and I hope it continues. It's a 2-year contract, so that will be, revisited here in, probably 6 months out from next March. So again, I wanted to get these things up front so that everybody could see that. So again, Kathleen mentioned, we check with area clubs. This is just, market sample, just so you can see if our dues increase go to the level that we anticipate they do, we'll be at $12.85. You can see where the other clubs are. Same with tennis, still in the market. Same with associate, still in the market. The dues impact is not just for golf members, it's also for the other classes. So tennis members would be going to $748, associate members to $517, and social members to $424. So again, all classes would have the impact of this 10 to 12% dues increase. Other things that Kathleen mentioned and David mentioned, we still have to vet our capital budget. We feel we do not need greater than a 5% dues increase on our capital numbers. We feel based on our reserve study, the assets that we have coming due in the next, call it 5 years, we have substantial funding for that. And we have plenty of money. This next year, it'll be $2.1 million. I think the following year is 2.3 and then 2.5. And then our loan falls off as well. So then we'll see more cash come to the club, and we could potentially grow what we're spending on reinvesting in the club. Future projects, the pavilion, people have asked, does this dues increase cover the pavilion? No, it does not. This is only specific to operations. This is just to operate our club day in and day out. The pavilion project is a separate ask. The board's objectives were to get through the operational dues process first, get through the total budget being approved. Then we'll tackle the pavilion project and kitchen project. So it breaks into 2 pieces as well. The pavilion project is what we call an aspirational project. It's something that doesn't exist. It's an asset that is not on our books. Therefore, we have to ask for the funding for that because we don't have the money for it, or at least at present we do not. The kitchen is a different animal. It actually falls into the capital replacement schedule. So because of some of the redesign that we've done with the original design, almost 100% of the kitchen renovation will be funded through capital dues. It won't be funded through an assessment. So that's this whole different project that we'll be bringing to the membership once we get through this step. So there will be a future ask potentially for the pavilion project. So that's probably come springtime, maybe early summer, that we'll have all of that prepared and ready to present to the membership. But that's another project that's on the schedule that we feel is going to be a benefit to the club, but that'll be up to the members to vote on. The kitchen part we're going to proceed with because we need to make those changes to the kitchen. We also have an architect coming in to review the site of Round Hill. As you all know, there are many asks, there's many aspirational things that you would all like to see here at the club. I get asked constantly for steam and sauna. They don't exist, they're not assets that we currently have. More pickleball courts, more tennis courts, more parking. What else do I have on there? Expanded fitness. Storage is a huge issue for us here at the club. I mean, if anybody's been on our back dock or been in any of the closets of this club, you can see that we're just busting at the seams. People would like a bar at the pool. They'd like a better bar at the bocce courts. They'd like a bar at the pickleball courts. The list goes on. I can also say, these changes that we make at the club, they all have a domino effect. So it's like, if we proceed with the pavilion, we've taken away our wedding site. So where are we going to have weddings? Where are we going to have these outside events? So again, we have to be thinking long-term on what the future of the club is, not just replacing what we currently have, but what are those assets that we need that are going to bring new members to the club, add value to the existing members, and add value to you as a club member. So thank you, Sean. So that's next on what's on the agenda. So, I just bring it back to, the ask is this. I'll get there. $61 a month. And that's what the vote will be about. So with that, I'm going to lead into some questions. We did have people ask questions in advance that we put into the document. And then we'll probably intersperse with questions from here from the floor. So let me jump to those. All right. Why don't we start with a question?
Go ahead. Your show.
So mic on?
Yep.
Any questions? Oh my God. Did it sure?
Yeah, like on.
Yeah.
I'm young guys here. If labor is 70%, the operating budget, right? And it's increased 30%, how is 12% enough? That's 21% increase in the overall operating budget. How can we get away? If we want to keep the member experience ever increasing, how is 12% going to be enough to do that?
Well, I'm not sure I can answer that directly, Jeff, other than the numbers that we've run, it projects out that that is funding our fiscal year next year. We are fully fiscal.
We've had savings through True.
Yep.
Right. Other things to be able to do that. So the board, I trust, is confident that 12% is the right number.
Yes.
10%, not 12.
So my name is Steve Rada. I live most of the time in Colorado, so many of you may not know me. But on Jeff's point, inflation for our labor has outpaced CPI, right? And then that's the issue. Tell me if I'm wrong.
That's the issue.
So let's just talk about, and that's what it is. Everything else is kind of a side issue, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you.
It's pretty simple.
Okay. You want a triple or a double? Or do we need a quadruple evidence? I think it's a good proposal. Question, Greg. I think it's a total 10% increase, not a 12, the way I calculate it.
Yeah.
Right, it's
Here,
5%.
Right, but we're
Plus the
talking
five.
about operational dues right here.
Right. So
It's 12% on operations, 5% on capital, blends to a 10%.
10% overall, right?
Yes.
And that's what we're looking at. Okay, so do we know what it looks like? A, when would this take effect? And B, did I turn the whole thing off? what happens then if we approve this? It would then take effect towards the 2024 budget, right? So then how does that budget look versus the 460,000 and the 780,000 that we were deficit? Now, are we positive? Are we still negative? Where are we in 2024, which is the goal, right?
Yeah, so this budget again is for our 23-24 year, which would start June 1st. So these dues would go into effect June 1, 2023. To balance the 23-24 budget with a slight, call it net profit of $11,984. Okay.
And we go through the process all
And
over
then we
again.
start our process again, regular cycle. The last time we had a dues increase, or asked for a dues increase was 2008. So it's been 15 years since this has happened. So, above 5. Okay. Do you want me to go through the questions? Okay. There you go. Okay. One of the questions was, can we consider opening up the course on Mondays when there is not an outside event? So I did not write this answer, but no, the course has typically been closed on Mondays to allow for additional maintenance work and to let the course rest and recover, particularly after heavier than usual amount of play. Not sure how that related to our dues increase question, but there we go. The banquets, this is a good question we get asked often. How many additional banquet events and golf tournaments we needed to offset the deficits? The deficits approximately, if we did the standard dues increase, we'd end up with roughly a $500,000 to $600,000 deficit shortfall. So we would need to add back 12 more Monday events and 24 buyouts to make up that difference. Have the spending habits changed because of the through Troon? As an example, are we buying new equipment when we used to buy used equipment? So, Round Hill has always purchased new equipment. Only on occasion if we purchased used equipment, and that usually for a specialized piece of equipment. So no, we're basically following our capital reserve study and replacing the equipment as it expires. So we haven't increased our appetite to buy. We're buying according to the schedule, and we're replacing that equipment as it comes due. Banquet events again, pre-COVID, as I said, was, we were unlimited in terms of how much outside business we could do, which meant 48 sellouts of the club. I think you all experienced that in the past. We've limited that now down to 24. And the same with golf tournaments. We used to do 26 golf tournaments, and now we're down to 12. And I think we're all experiencing a better playing condition on the golf course because of that. Investment information. So yes, we are investing in our funds. We're aware of the opportunity to earn additional interest on our operating cash and reserves. We've actually been more aggressive in this last year than we have in the past, and we're working with our bank to continue to take advantage of those opportunities. Why is this a golf member vote as opposed to a shareholder vote? So this one's a little bit tricky, and it might be confusing for some newer members that don't know about the 74 agreement, and some members that are in here that may know about it but want to forget about it. So, anyway, this had to do with the developer transition to the membership and what was called the 74 agreement and the Round Hill Members Association. And when we blended the bylaws between RHMA and RHCC, this was one of the provisions in the bylaws that was negotiated to remain as a golf member vote to protect their rights on their dues. So, and in reality, it makes sense to me that it's a golf member matter and not necessarily a shareholder matter. It's not all shareholders are golf members. That's it. Everybody ready to drink and eat? Yeah, so in the next 10 days or so, you will receive electronic ballot through, Vote Now HOA, the system that we've been using for the last 5+ years for whether it's elections, or anything else that we've done. So this will come to both, I think both. Yeah, both spouses. Although you only get one vote. Just make sure that you do vote. You'll get a reminder vote on that as well. So please do that. We'd like to get the quorum as soon as possible so that we can proceed to the next topic for the board.
Yeah.
Yes.
My name's John, bringing on to. I apologize. Just a little bit of high school now, but we had bar cards that been around. I think there's 49,000 rounds that were done last year, so that'll be 2,000 the person, that's 98,000 contents of $8 a piece. Is $730,000. The bar card probably costs 60,000. Standard operating margin on liquor would more than cover the $460,000 in operating trouble. Just a thought. By the way, I do appreciate all the people who do the work up there. I'm going for the market.
Thank you. Enjoy. Hey, Jack.